Hi there.
Hi.
I'm with Mr. Steve Odom today, a lifetime resident of Graham County and chairman of the Graham County Republican Party. Thank you for having me come by today, Steve, and for sharing some of your thoughts with the people of Graham County. I'm just going to start jumping into some hot topics in the news right now, and some of them relate very much locally, some are a little more generalized, but obviously gun control is on a lot of folks' minds right now. Just in general, what is your stand on the debate that is currently going on?
Well, I guess in full, to begin with, in full disclosure, I'm a member of the NRA. So I'm for individual gun rights. I'm against the government's intrusion into those rights, and it is a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right afforded us by the Constitution. I understand that we have to have laws to protect us in some aspects from people who want to do harm. I think the laws that are on the books now are sufficient, and they're not being enforced as they should be. I don't think that new laws is the answer. And I guess to take it one step further, one of the main topics recently was the shooting in Connecticut. I think we got a real, I know we have a real problem with the mental health system. People that need treatment are not getting treatment. I personally sat on the Smoky Mountain Mental Health Board for 2 years, and I was not satisfied with the results that we were getting from the system. The concept is good, the plans are good, but still there are people that's not getting the treatment they need, and it's really important that they get that treatment, because without the proper medication or treatment, anything can happen.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So, and being local and going to that board, what do you think are our chances of anything happening such as that here in this county, and specifically with the school system? And would you ever consider armed guards at our school system?
Well, we have campus police now. We have one officer at the elementary and one at the high school, and I think it's a good thing. Schools are viewed as soft targets. If someone has the mindset that they want to do harm, a school would be the first place to come to mind, because number one, of the number of people that are there, not only students but teachers.
All concentrated in one place.
Exactly, and honestly, it's hard for one officer at each school to cover the whole school system. If anything, we probably need a second one at each school.
And these officers are armed?
They are armed, and they have their own, what's known as campus police authority. So that they are their own police department on campus.
And tell us about, I don't go to school very often, but recently I went and I actually had to get a picture taken. So there is that security system in place.
Yes.
Also.
Yes, and I think the school board has been addressing it more since the tragedy in Connecticut. They've been looking at things and evaluating what they could do differently. Of course, funding's always an issue. Keeping the doors locked, is probably the best policy, and having those doors manned either by a human or a speaker system. You don't just allow anybody access into a school in this day and age. When I was younger, it wasn't a problem. Things have changed a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that goes on. I don't know. I'm sure you've probably heard of Dr. Dan Bonomo.
Yeah, know him well.
Local patriot, and for those who don't know, he's a local patriot who stands up to defend the Constitution. He has a website called Dr. Dan's Freedom Forum, and on this he has compiled a list of action items that citizens can take to help confirm their allegiance to the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and an individual's natural right law to personal protection. Of course, writing our senators and representatives often is on the list, but there were some other action items we could take, and I'm just going to quote from him. You can contact your county sheriff and ask him to make a public statement to the effect that he will obey his oath of office in which he swore to protect and defend the Constitution, and refuse to obey unconstitutional and unlawful orders that restrict or confiscate gun rights. And also to request your county commission pass a strong resolution affirming the county's support of the Second Amendment and its intention to help protect our Second Amendment rights. As chair of the Graham County GOP, would you be willing to be this representative, this person to go to our local leaders and make these requests on behalf of the citizens of Graham County?
That's a thought, and I wouldn't have a problem with doing that. I think our local board would, the county commissioners would approve such a resolution. I know most of them, I think they're all pro-gun rights, and I wouldn't have a problem doing that. And talking to the sheriff, I think he's probably gonna uphold his oath to defend the Constitution, and that's what the oath says. You take an oath not to do anything that is inconsistent with the Constitution of not only the state but the United States. And I admire the sheriffs across this country who have come forward and said that they would not violate their constitutional obligations, and they would not go along with some of the federal laws that are being proposed at this time if they were to be passed.
Wow. So you were sheriff at one time, and that is actually in the oath that you are vowing to uphold the Constitution.
Absolutely,
I didn't know that.
absolutely, and you cannot, and the oath says that you will not do anything inconsistent with the Constitution. So you take an oath to defend that Constitution to the last letter.
Okay, great. All right, going into a little more of the government, Steve, do you see a polarization between the staunch Republican conservatives and the liberal Democrats? Or do you feel that there is still a middle ground that can be found between people? And not only just in general in our country, but here locally in Graham County, have you felt that there is a segregation, especially since this last election?
I see on the national level, I see that the left has moved further left and the right has moved further right. 20 years ago, there was a lot of middle ground found, especially during the Reagan administration. In the next 2 years, I'm not sure that we're going to see a lot of middle ground. President Obama's agenda seems to be right the opposite of what the conservative agenda is with the House leadership. So I'm not sure that we're going to get a whole lot done in the next 2 years. On the county level, I don't really know how to answer that question other than to say I don't really see a divide. You have two party system, and each have their own beliefs. But I think for the most part on the local level, people know that we work hard for a living. We pay taxes. We depend on each other when bad times come. I don't see that kind of divide in our county.
Good. Well, I know most of the county tends to be Republican, but I definitely, personally for me, I definitely felt some separation, especially around the election time, between my own personal, friends and some uneasiness, maybe you could say.
Anytime you're in a small county, you're going to have strong feelings, especially Graham County when it comes to politics. I'm a Republican, but I'm also a conservative, and I guess I'm a Republican because, I believe as Republicans do, and I believe in their platform. There are certain aspects of that platform, if it ever changed and it affected my beliefs as a Christian, I couldn't be a Republican. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. But as it stands right now, I'm still a Republican, and I'm going to stay that way unless something changes that interferes with my belief system.
Sure. Okay. All right. So my next question has to do with big government versus local government.
Uh-oh.
On the one hand, Graham County is a Tier 1 distressed county. It's got some of the highest unemployment rates in the state. Around 50% of its population is actually considered under the poverty line. We're rural. We're losing our youth to larger cities because there's really no economic opportunity for them here. So when federal grant monies become available and we are eligible for it, it just makes sense for us to apply for this assistance that could aid the revitalization efforts that so many of us are diligently working for. That's how it was seen. On the other hand, free money is never free. And for generations now, we have seen our freedoms chipped away through strings that were attached with that aid and financial assistance. Once we become dependent on the government for handouts, do we not become like subjects to our kings? And so what are your thoughts on that? Because right now, many of the groups are reaching for these government grants, and we're doing wonderful things with them.
Right.
But is there not a fear that we are attaching ourselves too heavily?
I've personally been on both sides of this issue, and it's a decision that you have to leave up to your local leaders. You elect these people to make decisions on behalf of their constituents and the electorate. They have to look at each individual grant and see what strings are attached, if there are strings attached. There are situations where the government can help, should help. Again, there are situations where if you get a grant and it might pay 100% the first year, 70% the second year, by year 3 or 4, you're paying 80%. And you know, you have to look at these things up front and say, in 3 years from now or 4 years from now, am I going to be able to pick up that cost? If not, it's not worth doing, because you're in for a big letdown. You get a service that might be helping a lot of people, and then at the end of that grant period, and the county doesn't have the funding to pick it up, then somebody's going to be disappointed. So we got to depend on our local officials to make the right decision. And having been in that situation, let me say this: when somebody puts confidence in you to make those decisions, you got to stand behind them to a certain point. It's very easy to vote somebody in office and then stand back and point fingers and say, you made a dumb mistake, you know, or you did something really wrong. Hey, if you don't like the decisions they're making, run for office. This is a free country. You know, if you can do a better job, jump right in there.
It's true. It's true.
You know,
Don't get the sideline quarterback on.
Exactly, and I feel for a lot of these local officials, because they genuinely think they're doing what's best, you know, and in a lot of cases are. But man, do you take a beating? I'm telling you, it's awful.
I'm sure, and that's one reason why I'm starting to videotape some of these county commissioners meetings, because people don't understand the hard decisions that they are faced with, and sometimes they're very much put between a rock and a hard place, and you know, we can have a little more empathy with them sometimes.
Well, in a small county like Graham County, everybody is kinfolk. You're kin to a lot of the different families here. If you make a decision somewhere in county government to eliminate a job because it's unnecessary, you affect someone's life or their livelihood. You may not have one, but 3 or 4 different families mad at you because they're all relatives. So it's really a lot tougher in a smaller setting.
It's not as much anonymity either as the larger city council.
Right. 2 years ago, I was appointed to the Advantage West Board, which is the Western North Carolina Regional Economic Development Commission, sanctioned by the state. It serves the 17 western counties in North Carolina. That board is so much easier to sit on because the 21 members of the board serves a larger area, and the decisions you're making are affecting all of western North Carolina, an area, by the way, is larger than 7 U.S. states in landmass, these 17 western counties. So the decisions affect the whole area, but you're not getting into families, you're not getting into small town politics, and it's so much easier on that type of board than it is a local board. Now, you were talking about a Tier 1 county. There is so much opportunity for small businesses. With it, as an example, with Advantage West, we have a loan program. It's a revolving loan for existing small businesses. It's called the Advantage Opportunity Fund. And if small businesses want to grow, need to grow, but they don't have the capital to do that, they can apply for one of these loans. It's a pretty extensive process. It's done in conjunction with AB Tech and the Rural Center. And but it's a great opportunity for small businesses in Western North Carolina if they need to grow and create more jobs.
Great. All right, so with the government assistance issue, and you know, I don't know too much on this issue, so I mean, I'm just asking on you. On one hand, we can apply for government assistance. Okay, and then the other hand, approximately 80% of our county is owned by the federal government.
Right.
Do you feel that we are adequately compensated in lieu of the property taxes that we could be collecting?
No. Is that quick enough? No. The fees that the government pays in lieu of taxes is nowhere near high enough. It doesn't compensate for the loss of tax revenue. On top of that, you have policies that have been put in place that stopped reasonable, smart logging practices in this area. There are ways to harvest timber here that makes the forest more healthy. We have stands of timber all over Graham County that's dying because of its age that needs to be harvested. Yet the policies of the government, the U.S. Forest Service, will not let us do that. This is it's a natural resource that we could be taking advantage of. It would add jobs to the county, it would add to the economy. So the government, there needs to be a little give and take. They're not paying us what they should in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
So, you know, they need to be given a little bit. They need to be opening some of these forests up to do it in a reasonable and a sensible way.
You know, there was logging here
Years ago.
years ago. When did that change?
Over the course of the last 20, 25 years, it seems that they have closed off more and more of the land.
Okay.
The environmental movement has taken over basically,
Okay.
and stopped a lot of the logging, and actually it's damaging the forest instead of helping it. If you do what is known as select cut logging, you know, get the oldest timber, the largest timber, you make room for the smaller timber to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And by not doing that, it kind of drowns everything out to where it can't grow. So there's a smart way to do it, and that's what we need to be doing, but the policies of the government and the U.S. Forest Service is not allowing us to do that.
Okay. Okay. Well, all right. I'm going to go into something else. I happen to know that you were interested in starting a conservative talk radio show here in Graham County. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that and kind of what type of programming you would like to see on that. And
What I'm interested in seeing is a conservative radio station.
okay.
That picks up some of the syndicated talk shows. I'm not sure that I would want to do it myself, but you know, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, and I listen to a lot of these shows. I watch a lot of them, and I think it would be good for our area as educational purposes, you know, and it's just something I would like to see come to this area. They have it in Hiawassee now. Hiawassee, Georgia. It's picked up very well in the Murphy, western part of Cherokee County area. It's very close, and I have talked to the people at the radio station there in Hiawassee, and they have plans to expand, but it's some years down the road.
Okay. Okay. And their radio station is not only FM, but they also go on the internet.
Correct.
Too. Is that
yes.
correct? So you can actually listen to
You
them
can
on the internet
access
right
it on
now.
the internet. That's correct.
Okay.
And you know, a show like that could also have a local aspect where you had people interviewing local officials, talking to local people about what they need or expect, you know, from their local government. So it wouldn't just be on the national level.
Yeah. Great. On that subject, though, apparently recently President Obama, at least my husband tells me, that made a statement referring to Fox News
Okay.
and how the reason everybody thinks that things are so bad in the U.S. is because Fox News, or i.e. conservative media, is telling everybody it's that bad. With that being said, do you feel that there may be more censorship in our media's future?
I think they're going to try, and that they could try. He's using a lot. President Obama, I'm referring to as he, is doing a lot of executive orders, but there again, he's going in direct contradiction of the Constitution, freedom of press, freedom of speech, and I'm not sure that he will be able to do anything through his executive orders. If they try to push legislation with the Republican-controlled U.S. House, that's not going to happen. So,
Good.
I don't think we're not that they don't want censorship. And when I say they, I'm talking about the left because I'm on the right. It's not going to happen unless they get total control or power of both houses of Congress and the presidency.
Okay.
And then it would be challenged to the Supreme Court, Highest Court of Lands.
Okay, that's good. All right, on to some local issues. In general, what are your thoughts on the FEMA floodplain issue that has happened?
Tough. You know, this is another instance where the government is trying to force its will upon the people. And I don't like it. I know a lot of people don't like it. But I think it's a situation, and I think you may have alluded to this, that the government has the upper hand on us for this issue. And I think the right response was to pass it and then work to change it to where it was more correct. Mapping wasn't done right to begin with, and we all know that. They kind of skipped through Graham County as being irrelevant. And I think that the right response would have been to pass it to keep the insurance rates from going higher, to keep people from putting them in a situation where they could possibly lose their homes, and then work at trying to get the mapping redone and get it done right to where we don't have such a problem.
Yeah. 2020. That's what they say. It's 2020.
And there again, you know, it's a tough issue, and that's one of those issues where the local officials are put in the middle.
Yeah.
And I can see both sides very clearly, and I can see how somebody would vote either way on the issue. And I'm not going to stand in judgment of any of them on the decision they made. I think, that, you know, it's my personal opinion, pass it, then fight it. You know, or not necessarily fight it, but work to correct it, work to fix the problems in the mapping.
Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, and like you said, you were sheriff from, I think I got 1998 to 2002, is that correct? So having been that, and having seen the drug problem that we have locally, what are your thoughts? One, in my opinion, is I see it the worst, 20 to 30-year-olds, young adults. What is that? Also your opinion, and what do you think we can possibly do to try to get this under control?
That's a hard battle to fight, and I fit it for 4 years. One of the biggest problems is the court system. Not necessarily the court itself; it's the way the structured sentencing is set up in the state of North Carolina. Structured sentencing was passed several years ago by the General Assembly to relieve overcrowding in prisons, and when they did this, they tied the hands of the judges. The judge, they took out his option of handing down harder sentences. Just as an example, hypothetical situation, if someone gets caught the first time for drug possession, it's automatic probation. Second time, it's a little stiffer probation. Third time, they might get 30 days in the county jail and longer probation.
Okay.
It takes 4 or 5 hardcore convictions to get them serious time in state prison.
So this is why we consistently see the same names in the police blotter.
It is.
Okay.
So where were we? Sentencing?
Yes, and that's why we see so many of the same names consistently in the police blotter, and and many of us, we don't know what's going on. Our comments are, why are we seeing these people? Obviously, enforcement's not happening. Why are every month we're seeing the same people for the same drug problems?
Well, we have a common term for it. It's the revolving door. You go in the courthouse, you get to walk right back out, and it's not the judge's fault. Some of the fault rests with the district attorney's office for failure to prosecute criminals as they should. The district attorney, our judicial district, or prosecutorial district, let me rephrase that, is the largest in the state. It's the most expensive in the state. The DA for many, many years has resided in Haywood County. Haywood and Jackson counties are predominantly Democratic counties, and the population is such that they decide basically who the DA is going to be for the whole district. 6 of our 7 district court judges reside in Haywood County. So smaller counties like Graham are not that relevant to them. They can walk in and dismiss cases, and it doesn't really affect them because we don't elect them. So I've been an advocate for years that we need to split our prosecutorial district and put the 5 western counties in its own district, and let Haywood and Jackson County have their own district. That way we would have a greater voice in who's going to be our district attorney, who's going to be our judges.
Okay.
And
these are the names that are usually on the ballots that the majority of people probably don't know much about.
That's right, and they really don't have any opposition because they're a shoo-in.
Okay.
If you live in Haywood County, you're going to get elected. That's been the rule for years, because Haywood or Jackson, but those 2 counties have such a large population, they overrule everybody else in the western part of the state. It's not fair. It's not right for us. We need to be in a position to have more say about who's going to be our prosecutor, who's going to be our judges.
Sure.
Other than that, we need our state legislature, we need to lobby them to strengthen the Structured Sentencing Act.
Okay.
4 or 5 convictions is too many for a drug dealer to have to get a hard time in state prison. You know, they need to strengthen those up, make them stronger, and give the judges more power to exercise over these cases.
It's interesting. And it just makes such a good point about, when you do go and vote, and there are so many names on the ballot that so many people do not know who they are, and you just don't think, oh, well, I'm not in the court system. I've never been in the court system, so it's not going to affect me. But it does. It does, because it affects, like as you're saying, the sentencing that happens, and the fact that we have consistently certain people that we see over and over and over again that are not either getting the help that they need or the punishment that they deserve for the crimes that they're committing.
Well, as an example, the 4 years I served as sheriff, we convicted a lot of people. Some went to prison because they had prior records, some did not. But after I left office, in the 2 or 3 years after I left office, I seen some of the ones that we had convicted 2 or 3 times start to get those tough sentences. And that's too long of a period. It shouldn't be like that. If you get caught twice in 1 year for selling drugs, you should get some hard time because you didn't learn your lesson the first time. So, we need to lobby our General Assembly to strengthen these, and it costs more money to build prisons. So we're either going to have a justice system that works for us and that gets the point across, or we're not. Right now we don't. If we were more like the state of Georgia, I can tell you, I'll have a lot of friends and a lot of family in the state of Georgia. If you get convicted down there, you're going to be on a chain gang.
Wow.
They're going to put you to work. They make a believer out of you, and we don't do that in North Carolina.
There's a lot of enforcement issues, it seems like. But all right, many of us in the county know that you're a very outspoken advocate for Quarter K. Is there any new updates that we should know about? Last we heard was some more testing, obviously, that was going on.
Not that I'm aware of. The last I heard, they're being forced into this reevaluation, environmental assessment, and it's there again. The environmentalists have basically stopped the road. I want to see the road myself personally. I know there's a lot for it. There's a lot against it, and I respect everybody's opinion. My opinion is I think it would not only boost our economy, it would give our residents better access to medical facilities outside of the county, easier access. I had someone tell me the other day that the 4-lane never helped Cherokee County. I said, go over to the state line and drive to where the 4-lane ends at Andrews, count the number of businesses on both sides of the road, and tell me it didn't help Cherokee County. It's amazing how much economic benefit that section of 4-lane has had for the county. And if the Quarter K were to be completed all the way through, it's just going to get better. And I'm a big advocate for it, and I'm gonna continue to fight for it.
All right, okay. Down to the end. So, Steve, you've run for office before, you've run for sheriff. And you
Yes.
were sheriff. And you've run for other office?
No,
Yeah.
I was on the board of commissioners.
I thought you were on the
was
committee, yes.
appointed to fill a vacancy on
Okay.
there.
Okay.
I-
Ever run?
No,
No.
I'm through with public office. I'm ready to, I'm happy with my life the way it is. Our company, my job keeps me busy.
Okay.
I'm happy being, involved with the party. I like, the Republican Party. I believe in it, and, I like to work hard for it. And I'm happy in the position I'm in right now.
Okay, okay. Well, that's all I have for you. Do you have anything else that you would like to share or talk about, or anything Republican-ish burning on your mind?
No, we're living in an interesting time. I really don't know what's gonna happen in the next 2 years until the next set of congressional elections in Washington. I feel really good about our state. I think they're making some changes that are really gonna help our state and help the economy in our state, put people back to work. It's gonna take time. It's not gonna happen overnight. Any new job you step into, there's a transition period. You gotta get the right key players in place to make things start happening. On the state level, we're in good shape. I want to see things change on the federal level. And I know that we're a small county. I know that I'm just one person. But as long as the good Lord gives me strength, I'm going to exercise my right to vote. Unless I lose my mind, it's going to be as a conservative Republican.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you, Steve Odom. I really appreciate you talking to me. And thank you for your time. And
Thanks
this
for
is
coming
Lisa
by.
Russo with the GramEditorial.com.